Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast. Today, we're diving into something a lot of people are curious about: learning a new language effectively. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Tom. Language learning can feel like a big task, but the good news is there are tons of ways to make it fun and more manageable. Lisa, want to kick us off with the first tip?
Of course. For me, immersion is key. Immersion means surrounding yourself with the language as much as possible. Like when I was learning French, I started changing my phone settings to French, watching French TV shows, and even listening to French music. Even if I didn't understand everything at first, it helped me get comfortable with the sounds and structure of the language.
That's a great tip, Lisa. I did something similar with Spanish. And for anyone out there, this doesn't mean you have to move to another country. Even simple things like following social media accounts or watching YouTube videos in the language you're learning can help. Another one I recommend is active listening. When I watch shows in my target language, I focus on the words and try to catch any familiar ones. It helps me get used to everyday phrases and pronunciation.
Yes, active listening is so important, Tom. It's easy to just have it on in the background, but focusing and picking out words helps a lot. Now, let's talk about grammar basics. I know, grammar sounds boring to most people, but it's like a roadmap. If you understand basic grammar rules, you can start making sentences on your own rather than just repeating phrases.
Absolutely. Grammar can seem intimidating, but you don't need to learn it all at once. Start with sentence structure or verb conjugation. Little by little, it builds up. And speaking of building up, writing practice is another great tool. I used to keep a small notebook where I'd write a couple of sentences in Italian every day. Simple things like "today is sunny" or "I'm having pasta for lunch." It helps reinforce vocabulary and sentence structure.
Oh, that's a great idea, Tom. Writing is often underrated but really helpful. Here's another one: shadowing. Repeating after native speakers to mimic their pronunciation and intonation. You can do this with songs, movies, or even podcasts, repeating what you hear to get a natural feel for the language's rhythm.
Yes, shadowing is super helpful. You really feel how the language flows. And that leads perfectly into my next tip: conversational practice. Practicing with someone, even if they're not a native speaker, helps you become more comfortable with the language. There are apps and online communities for language exchange, so you don't have to worry about finding a partner nearby.
Oh, definitely. Conversation practice is one of the best ways to learn. You're actually using what you've learned in a real-life setting. And if you're shy, even talking to yourself can help. Another useful tip is using flashcards for vocabulary. I like apps like Anki or Quizlet, where I can add words and review them daily. It's a quick way to keep new vocabulary fresh.
Yes, flashcards are fantastic for vocabulary. And here's one more method: learning words in context. Instead of memorizing a list of random words, I try to remember them in sentences or phrases. For example, instead of just learning the word cafe, I remember it in the phrase "I went to a cafe." It helps me remember the word and how it's used.
I love that, Tom. Learning in context really makes a difference. And another thing I find helpful is setting small goals. Instead of saying, "I want to be fluent in Spanish," at smaller, achievable goals like, "I want to learn 10 new words this week," or "I want to be able to order coffee in Spanish." These small goals give you motivation and help track progress.
Exactly. Setting goals is huge. And here's another big one: consistent practice. You don't have to spend hours a day. Even just 15 minutes a day can make a huge difference if you're consistent. It keeps the language fresh in your mind without feeling overwhelming.
So true, Tom. Consistency is everything. And lastly, I'd say celebrating your progress is important. Learning a language is a long journey. And celebrating small achievements keeps you motivated. Maybe you can finally introduce yourself, or you've learned enough to order food in a restaurant.
Yes, recognizing progress, even if it feels small, keeps you going. It's all about taking it step by step and enjoying the journey. Well, that's it for today's tips. I hope everyone listening found these helpful. Remember, learning a language takes time and patience, so stay positive and keep practicing.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to let us know and stay tuned for more tips and discussions in our next episode.
Bye.
Bye.